Welcome back, Honors. All right. Happy Labor Day weekend. Glad that you guys get to. Oh, wow, whoa, go back. Glad that you guys get to enjoy a nice little break, right? I think we all needed one. Those green and white day weeks are pretty long. So, really looking forward to finishing up this Assyria stuff with you. And then we're going to finish up the Persians. And then we're going to be ready to rock. All right. So, we actually, it looks like, might end up getting like a day and a half to review for y'all's tests, right? Well, just a heads up, too, though. Remember, E period honors, right? You guys are taking your test on Thursday. G period honors, you guys are taking your test on Friday, okay? Because of the drop add shenanigans. All right, so now, with that though, we all left off right here, relatively speaking, in class, right? We were talking about how Assyria is going to use not just their military tactics, but also their art, their culture, their government style, their extreme geographic presence to spread their influence all over the Fertile Crescent area, right? And the Assyrians are going to take over between 850 and 650 BC. Okay, sorry. We've got a lot of shifting and a lot of movement right now. There's come here. All right, I'll bring the camera to you. There are all right, it's okay. All right, so this is Rufio, and unfortunately, he gets all riled up because his sister is over in the corner hunting lizards. All right, so you know how like New Orleans is covered in lizards or whatever? So the poodle, who's a total ignoramus, like sits in the window and just stares at them knowing that she can't get to them. Josie. And she won't even look. Josie. There she is. All right. So yeah, she's hunting, and then Doofer on the other hand is being a big lazy baby, and he's sitting with me. All right. Now anyway, so the Assyrians are going to successfully spread their influence from 850 to 650 BC, and they're going to defeat and conquer. They're going to defeat and conquer Syria, Palestine, Babylon, Egypt, the Hebrews, the Phoenicians, all of these different types of pit. Now she's getting him into trouble. This is ridiculous. Rufio, get down. Rufio. Hop off. Anyway, so he's going to go drink water and then probably just go back to bed. Now, anyway. But the big thing is, okay, so they successfully conquered a huge swath of territory, right? And they did it by all kinds of other crazy ways. Now, my E period, I know we talked about this stuff already, so I was just a little bit ahead, but my G, I was just like burnt out by the end of the day. So they did it by a bunch of different successful ways. First of all, by looking at this, they had multiple different divisions to their military, right? They had shield wall men that were actually designed to protect archers behind them, while the archers would like rain down like a sea of arrows on top of a city that they were trying to take over. They also had officers, and they had spearmen, and they had like all these other different units to their military that had different uniforms, and it made it much easier for them to take people over. Whereas most other areas had these things called civilian soldiers or citizen soldiers, which means that they were not actually trained soldiers. They were just a part of the empire and expected to help defend it, right? Which is a little ridiculous. Now, anyway, so not only that, but then also after they would take people over, of course, they would, make examples out of people, right? They would actually put people like on sticks and spears and stuff like that to try and send a message to other people that might try to conquer that area that the Assyrians were already here. And then also to send a message to neighboring cities, we're coming for you next. Don't be stupid. Also, this is a way to keep rebellions from breaking out, right? So then they also would even do things like create these giant siege weapons, right? We believe that this is like there is historical evidence that suggests that the Assyrians actually developed a humongous tank, right? One of the first that history has ever seen that was developed just to break down the walls of other neighboring cities, right? And then in E period, we talked about it like Allie, all right? If Allie's building a wall to protect her city, and she builds it twice as thick, right? Doubles the thickness, so there's no way that the siege thing can get through. Assyrians figured out a way around it, right? They would send these people called sappers underneath the wall. They would tunnel underneath the wall and make the wall weak at its base so it would come collapsing down. And on most times, the sappers would actually be buried underneath the ground with it, right? So they were usually sometimes just slaves. But sapper divisions would actually be used to take down walls by tunneling underneath them. That is ridiculous. The Assyrians are unstoppable. And this, of course, is them flaying people. So flaying was a process that the Assyrians would do, again, to send a message to other people as well as to the people that they had just taken over as to not rebel or do anything what they considered stupid, all right? Like have your own ideas or revolutionize. So the Assyrians would actually like peel the skin off of ranked officials within the city as a message to the rest of them, right? That's flaying, right? So that's so brutal. All right, now, the Assyrian military in general, right? So the Assyrian military, you do not need to write all of this stuff down. You need to sum this stuff up at the very, very most, okay? Like just like little tiny, little like sentences, little bullet points, all right? Do not get bogged down in the wordiness. It sucks away from how interesting this stuff can be, all right? So anyway, the Assyrian army was the largest standing army that has ever been seen in the Mediterranean or the Middle East. And pretty much, more than likely from what we know, is probably the largest standing army that the world had ever seen up until this point, right? So, now, yeah, all right, we're good. All right, so now, anyway, so continuing forward, not only did the Assyrians have advanced technology, but they also had extremely good tactics when it came to taking over and capturing kingdoms, which is what we just talked about, right? So, with that, sorry, I'm just double checking on some stuff. Empire. So now the army would even draw rams, like I showed you, right, which looked like a modern-day tank, into the city walls to break them down. Assyrian troops threw ladders against the walls of the cities and climbed up and over and into the stronghold, while archers would launch arrows to actually like take down the cavalry fire. All right, here we go. 612. 609. All right, yeah, we're good. All right, I just need to make sure my dates were right. For some reason, I got a little mixed up there. Now, not to mention the fact, too, the last one, like I said, the Assyrian army would even use these people called sappers, soldiers who dug tunnels to sap the origins of an enemy's wall so they would weaken and fall, right? So that is insane, all right? So now, anyway, and they didn't just stop there. Now, this is where we are starting for you guys, right? But G, like we were doing all that stuff before. Now, don't write, you see where it says don't write this? Don't write that. So the Assyrian military was unstoppable. Like you were not going to take them down, right? There are even other evidence suggests that if there was hypothetically a large river or body of water between the Assyrians and their like people they were trying to go after, like let's say hypothetically speaking, you know, who's my person going to be today? Let's say, I'm thinking. Let's say Kylie, right? Kylie like has a city that she is trying to protect, right? In her little side of G period over on the right. She's trying to protect that from the left side of G period, which is full of these Assyrian generals and soldiers, like, who sits over there? Like Gracie and, you know, and whatchamacallit, and Sierra and Isabel and Brittany and all those guys, right? But Kylie's got people like Brenna and all these other smart people on her side. So she's like, you know what we'll do? We'll dig a tunnel, right? And then we'll fill it with water. We'll make a moat. We'll make a huge body of water between us and the Assyrians, and there's no way they can cross it because they'll get gross and ooky. All right, so anyway, now, well, with that, though, the Assyrians on the other side, like Lacey and Chloe and all those people are like, this is not going to stop us. So Assyrians were very well known for going into the woods, killing animals that lived nearby, taking the skin off the animal, sewing it up, blowing air into them, tying that off, and making basically like a life jacket. Like, I mean, like, and then they would actually get on top of it and just paddle over the, like, expanse and then go over there and actually destroy the city regardless of the water anyway. Or they would take those animal skins, blow them up, and connect them with beams and then build a bridge over it. Like, the Assyrian military is absolutely unstoppable. The army is extremely well organized. Tons of specialized units. Kings, archers, spearmen, rams, foot soldiers. Like, you're not going to stop them. Here is an actual recessive engraving of Assyrian soldiers swimming through a body of water to attack a city on the other side. Like, look, there's a fish. And I know what a couple of y'all are like, why is there a horse there? Horses are actually phenomenal swimmers, just giving you a heads up. But yeah, the Assyrian soldiers were unstoppable. Water, land, mountain, nothing is going to stop them, right? So, now here's another big thing as well. how they controlled these conquered people. Now we know that they would use like violence as a way to deter them from rebelling, but the Assyrians also had an extremely organized empire, right? They organized these conquered territories into an empire, so they would divide them into like districts, basically, right? And the Assyrian kings would pick the governors from these territories and the rulers that sided with them. They were like, all right, look, if you side with us, you can actually still control your area, right? So the Assyrians protected the dependent territories from invasions on the outside, but if they refused to pay taxes, the Assyrians would many times come in, destroy the land, and kill all of its people, right? If there were any signs of rebellion, the Assyrians would come in and wipe out entire populations, right? Hundreds and thousands of people were deported to work in Assyria as slave laborers, and the Assyrians also caused the diaspora of the Jews because when they came there, they were like, this is our land now, and you don't get to live here because we don't like your religion, all right? So, and they just completely pushed them out, which is insane. So jot that down. We'll put Assyria, big jerks, all right? So anyway, now, mean to the Hebrews, all right? So anyway, so as you can see, they would just set up these little different governments, but they also had advanced technology as well that's going to rub off on all the people that they take over. One of the biggest advanced pieces of technology that they actually stole, probably either from the Hyksos, the Hittites, or somebody else before that, is the use of chariots, right? So one of the most successful things that the Assyrian used was a chariot. Not invented actually by Greeks, but invented actually by the Middle Eastern kingdoms, right? The Mesopotamian kingdoms. Also a means of quick transportation, but this two-wheeled horse-drawn chariot was used to smash their way through cities and towns of their rivals. They would actually run people over, as you can see right here. Notice that that body has no head on it because this Assyrian chariot is just rolled directly over it. Well, actually, the head is there, but it's actually flopped up on his back, right? So the Assyrians literally were so obsessed with, like, separating heads from bodies. It's ridiculous, right? So anyway, got last couple of things real fast. Now, the technology piece as well was huge. Their use of iron and other advanced metals, because their Assyrians were some of the first ancient people to notice the quality efficiency of iron over bronze, right? Because iron is stronger, holds an edge longer, and it's also much more durable than the other metals, okay? So the Assyrians are actually a big proponent of this thing called the Iron Age, right? That actually started around, the Iron Age probably started like close to like probably about 1000 slash the Bronze Age collapse, I think is like in about 1200 BC. But we'll talk about it later on when we get to the Greeks and the Mycenaeans and people like that, right? So now anyway, but the last big thing about it is the fall of the Assyrians, right? The biggest reason why the Assyrians fell is they just made too many enemies, right? Way too many enemies. So they were destroyed by a huge group of rebelling cultures that all attacked at the exact same time. Jot this down, though. Guess who those people were organized by? Those rebels were organized and led by Nebuchadnezzar II. Nebuchadnezzari, right? So I think that's how you spell it. Now, Nebuchadnezzar actually organized all of these conquered peoples into a huge group of rebelling factions, and they attacked different sectors of the Assyrian Empire at once. Because Nebuchadnezzar noticed from years and years of conquest, your army ranks have gone down because some of the Assyrians are going to die in battle. This is unavoidable, right? And he realized, wait a minute, though, there are more rebels than the Assyrians have military put together. So if we attack at the same time and they have to split their military up, we'll be able to take over. Nebuchadnezzar led these rebels and established the Neo-Babylonian Empire, right? So following the Assyrians, jot that down, the Neo-Babylonians take over under Nebuchadnezzar II, right? So Assyria eventually is going to crumble, though, giving way for the Persians a little bit later on, right? So because the Assyrians controlled what area was considered the Persians until Cyrus the Great came along and was like, pop, pop, all right? So now, that is pretty much a big, like, stopping off point, but I do want to go ahead and talk a little tiny bit about the Persians real quick before we go any further, all right? So now, the Ancient Persians, okay, so now you need to make a new title, right? So now we're getting into the Ancient Persians, right? Some of you are like, we just talked about the Neo-Babylonians. The Neo-Babylonians were only around for a hot second, right? They're kind of like the Akkadians, right? They're just not a good representative body for an ancient civilization that I want to get into, right? So the Ancient Persians, on the other hand, are a big one. So the Ancient Persians are the empire that no one knows enough about, right? So the ancient Persians, there we go, is a very important setup, right? This entire area would be taken over by these people because the rise of Persia was mainly due to this, okay? This is the last thing you're going to jot down, all right? The Persians are going to base their empire on tolerance and diplomacy, pretty much the exact opposite of that of the Assyrians, right? They're going to rely on a strong military to back up their policies, and ancient Persia is going to emanate and flower of modern-day Iran, or where Iran is today, all right? So we're going to stop there for this weekend flip. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I will see you guys on Tuesday. Have a great Labor Day. Enjoy yourselves. See you guys then. Have a good one.